Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible story. It's about a bird that literally came back from the dead, declared extinct in the wild, only to be brought back from the very brink. This is the story of the Spix's macaw. And believe me, it's a roller coaster of loss, amazing science, and a future that's suddenly hanging by a thread.
So let's just start with this piece of incredible news that came out of Brazil just a few months ago. In May of 2024, conservationists got word of something truly amazing. For the first time in decades, two little Spix's macaw chicks, born and raised completely in the wild, took their very first flight.
Just look at this. This picture captures a moment that so many people thought was completely impossible. A wild family of Spix's macaws right where they belong. But it's the unbelievable journey to get to this single moment that makes this whole story so powerful. Okay, so here's the big question, the thing that makes this so mind-boggling. The IUCN, which is the global authority on this stuff, officially declared this bird extinct in the wild just 5 years ago. So how in the world is an extinct bird having babies in the wild? That's the mystery we're about to solve. To really understand how we got here, we've got to rewind the clock. This is the story of a ghost parrot, the so-called little blue macaw, and its heartbreaking disappearance from the world. You see, the Spix's macaw was a specialist. It lived in this one tiny part of Brazil and needed these very specific old trees to make its nests. And that, unfortunately, made it incredibly vulnerable. First came the deforestation, wiping out its home. Then the illegal pet trade moved in, and these beautiful birds were trapped relentlessly. And this timeline just shows how fast it all happened. It's shocking. Discovered in 1819, it was always rare. But look at the end of the 20th century. By the 1980s, fewer than 5 were left. A decade later, just one single male. And by the year 2000, he was gone too. For almost 20 years, the Spix macaw was a ghost, until the official declaration came down in 2019, extinct in the wild. But here's the thing, even though the wild was silent, the story wasn't actually over. A handful of these birds, maybe a few dozen, still existed in private collections around the world. And that's where the story takes a turn, with an absolutely unprecedented mission to pull a species back from total annihilation. So how'd they do it? Well, it all came down to this really critical partnership. It was a deal between Brazil's government conservation agency, ICMBio, and a conservation group in Germany called ACTP, who happened to have the biggest flock of captive Spixes. Basically, Brazil had the protected homeland, and Germany had the birds and the breeding know-how.
And so in 2020, the plan kicked into high gear. 52 of these captive-bred macaws made this historic journey, flying from Germany all the way back to their ancestral home in Brazil, ready for release.
And what happened next? Well, it was nothing short of a historic success. But this wasn't just about opening a cage door. This was about teaching captive birds how to be wild again. The strategy they came up with was just brilliant. First, they picked the perfect birds. Not too old, not too young, with the best genetics. Then, those birds went to what was basically a wild skills boot camp. But here's the truly genius part. They released the Spix macaws alongside a group of wild blue-winged macaws. These teacher birds showed the newcomers the ropes, what to eat, where to find it, and most importantly, what a predator looks like and how to get away. That's knowledge you just can't learn in a cage. So, after the first year, they crunched the numbers, and the cumulative survival rate was 58.3%. Now, I know what you might be thinking, 58%? But in the world of reintroduction science, that is a massive home run. The researchers were hoping for a 30% survival rate. They almost doubled it. The birds were thriving, they were flocking, they were breeding, it was working. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Listen to what Thomas White, a top advisor on the project from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, had to say. He called it, quote, the most successful reintroduction of any parrot I have ever seen anywhere. So everything's perfect, right? A total victory for science, for conservation, a species saved. But then, in a twist that is just gut-wrenching, just as those first wild chicks were learning to fly, the whole thing took a dark, sudden turn. In June of 2024, that crucial 5-year agreement that was the bedrock of this whole project, it expired. And it wasn't renewed. The lifeline connecting Brazil and Germany, the very thing that made this miracle possible, was cut. So what does this bureaucratic snag mean for that tiny, fragile group of macaws out there? I mean, can they make it on their own? Well, scientists have already done the math, and the data is absolutely chilling. This triumphant project, this incredible comeback story, is now on the verge of a second extinction. To get why they're so sure, you have to understand this amazing tool they use. It's called a population viability analysis, or PVA. Think of it like a super powerful computer simulation for wildlife. You plug in all the real-world data, birth rates, death rates, genetics, and the model runs thousands of possible futures to calculate the odds of survival. And when they ran the PVA for the Spix's macaw, the result was, well, it was incredibly clear. These lines on the graph basically show the two roads this population can go down over the next 100 years. Either it grows into a healthy, stable population, or it crashes, hard, all the way down to zero. There's really no middle ground. Let's just break down what those lines actually mean, because it's pretty stark. The scientists tested two main scenarios. Scenario 1, no more new birds are released into the wild. The chance of extinction in the next 100 years? 100%. Scenario 2, they stick to the original plan and release about 20 new birds each year. The extinction risk? 0%. The science could not be any clearer. This new little population, it just can't make it on its own yet. It's too small, not enough genetic diversity. Without that steady stream of new birds, it is guaranteed to fail. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And that is where things stand right now. A project that should be celebrated as one of the greatest conservation victories in history is now teetering on the edge of becoming one of its greatest tragedies. The science has shown us exactly what to do to save this species. The only question left is, can the bureaucracy catch up in time to save it all over again?